So, thank you, viewers, for joining in as you stream in. We've got Maya Mishra. I'm sure you've heard of her or heard from her on LinkedIn. And from everyone's favorite, Purdue MEM. Maya, it's hilarious that now people used to say, I want to get into a good MEM program. If I pay you, will you get me in? To I want to get into Purdue. If I pay you, will you get me in? Right. So it's problematic on multiple fronts, but a fantastic program, right? All jokes apart. And of course, we got Saumya from Duke, who's going to tell you some very interesting things about his internship in Vegas and life there. Yash has just joined us from Johns Hopkins. Our viewers, if you've been following us, will recall that we did a video with Yash in terms of how his journey at Johns Hopkins has been. So thank you so much to this wonderful panel for joining in. Let me start off, even though I've given a brief introduction, with you guys going one by one, maybe telling our audience where you studied, what you're doing currently, and we'll take it from there. Maya, why don't you start us off?
Sure, happy to do that. Hey everyone, my name is Maya. Happy to be part of this webinar being organized by Shrikar here at Gradwine. Currently, I'm a product manager based out of Bentonville in Arkansas, which is the headquarter for Walmart. Just started like a couple of months ago, graduated in May 2025, as Shrikar said, from Purdue, got my master's in engineering management. I came to the US in fall of 2023. Wonderful program, reaped all of its benefits, and had three different internships that I got to play around with. Was an EPM at Tesla, and then a PM with Walmart, and then did a passion role with ABB for industrial marketing and sales. A little before that, if we're trying to go back to the past, I got my bachelor's in electronics and communication from St. Joseph's in Chennai. Right after which I started my career with Value Labs and then made a very quick pivot to Caterpillar, which is where I spent about 3 years in Bangalore. A wonderful organization. I think I owe a great deal to that place for wherever I am today. But that's a little bit about me. Happy to meet with you all and answer any questions that you have. Uh, why doesn't Yash go next?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure. Hey, hi, Chikar. Nice to see you again. And hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to join as a panelist on this call. I'm from the western part of India, from Aurangabad in Maharashtra. I'm a mechanical engineer. I graduated back in 2020. And before I came for my master's here in the US, I worked for 3 years in Cognizant. I was working for a banking client and did a lot of cross-functional, lot of technical work there in the operations side. And at Johns Hopkins, it was a really good time. Worked on a lot of projects, made a lot new friends, and it was a really good experience. I was also an intern at Dassault Systems last year in the summer for 6 months. Actually, it was a longer internship as a strategy and product manager in Johnston, Rhode Island. And now I have moved to Boston to work as a comparative intelligence specialist at Dassault Systems again. I've been here about 3 months now. So yeah, so far so good. That's pretty much about me.
All right. Thank you so much for that intro, Yash. And we will pick your brains about, your job and, your journey towards it later part of the video. But Soumya from Duke, the first name that people think of often when they hear MEM, why don't you give us an introduction?
Thank you, first of all, for having me here, Shrikar. Hey everyone, my name is Saumya. You can call me Saum. That's much easy to pronounce. Uh, I started my US journey from fall 2024. Before that, I was a business analyst at Quantify for a couple of years. Then I wanted to transition towards product management, and that's what I feel like Duke is among the best MEM programs that we have in US. And that's how it all started. Amazing professors, amazing curriculum about Duke. I mean, I can just go on and on in this call about Duke, but if you get a chance to join Duke, definitely do it without any doubt. Post that, after I completed my semester, a couple of semesters at Duke, I joined Skills. It's a leading mobile gaming platform in US who connects players and developers through fair and fun competition. So I am currently interning, or you can say a co-op with them till December, and I am from the Education of City of India, known as Kota. So if you see my transition from Kota to Vegas, is itself a story in about everything. So yeah, super excited to be here. Happy to answer all your questions, and hopefully you get all the answers that you need.
If we do a YouTube video interview with you, I have my title from Kota to Vegas. How fantastic is that, right?
That would be great.
And that would get some clicks. So, guys, and we can do this in any order, but I want to go right to the beginning, right? Because I think a lot of folks who are listening in are evaluating degrees still, perhaps a little late in the year, but I don't blame them. MEM, MIS, should I stick to? I know our engineering college professors say stick to your core, right? Stick to your core. That's where the jobs are, and that's where you specialize. And I'm sure you evaluated multiple degrees at some point in this, master's application journey. So I want to understand, when did you first come across the MEM? Why did you decide to apply to it, and where did that motivation come? And I think since we ended with Saumya, we'll continue with Saumya as well, and then we'll go to Maya and Yash.
But to be honest, I wanted to do MSBA since the start because I was a business analyst before. So I felt like, okay, the transition would be easy for me to go into master, then get a job after MSBA. But then there one of my friend who introduced me to MEM, and I had no clue before this, like what MEM is, etc., etc. But I was like, I want to do either BA or PM. Like these are the two directions that I want to go in. Then she introduced me to PM, and then I was like, okay, let's see what are the different type of degrees, colleges out there in US, and let's explore. And then I was like, okay, let's go to YouTube, MEM colleges, and then I see Shrikar with the top 10 colleges videos in MEM. I was like, okay, I'm making some notes. These are the 10 universities, and like there were like 3, 4 universities that I really wanted to go in, and Duke was obviously among those lists. And that's how for me I got introduced to MEM. Then during that entire duration, it was MEM, MIS, and everything. But I felt like MEM is more tailored for me because it was more business management than technical. I had a computer engineering degree in bachelor's, but I felt that coding was not my thing at all. So I was like, okay, I think I'm a people person. I should switch towards management side of the things. And that's how this whole umbrella of MEM came into the picture. And then I was like, okay, I think this is the right thing for me. This is the right course. And I have to apply to these top 5, 6 universities and hopefully get into one. And then I got into Duke, and that's how MEM became a thing for me.
All right. So it was essentially a business analyst or a product manager, and you wanted to move away from the code, which is,
Yeah.
perfectly fair. I think some of you who are thinking along those lines can sort of resonate and listen in, right? Makes perfect sense. I'll move on to the next set of thoughts. So Maya, when did you discover the MEM? Were you 100% sure about it from the beginning, or were you evaluating multiple degrees?
Yeah, so I think my journey goes a little way too back. So it was almost right after undergrad when I knew that I didn't want to go for a master's right off the bat. I wanted to gain some experience. What that does is it might not tell you what you exactly want to do, but it certainly tells you what you don't want to do, right? So just getting that exposure a little bit was always a recommendation that came from my dad and peers. So I wanted to live up to that. Um, but other than that, I think it was not always MEM and it was not always the US. It started with all possible geographies, starting right from like Sweden, Nordic nations, all of that to Singapore, Europe, you name it. And like at that given point, I almost knew immigration system for every country. But evaluated all of that, and I think one of the scariest parts about US back in the day was, oh, you have about 60 days or 90 days to get a job after graduation, and that almost felt terrifying. Where in Europe had like, oh, you can stay for about year and a half. So I think that was one of the biggest factors. Like, hey, first let's decide on the country, and then we'll drill down to which course I want to pick. Um, Ended up deciding on US because I asked myself, hey, you've worked for 3 years, you have this profile. Can you trust yourself a little bit and say 90 days and you can do it, right? And then somehow there was some voice that said, that's okay, we're going to take the risk and we'll be able to pull it off. Then it came down to options of what masters I wanted to do. Yes, MIM in the Europe was one of those, but it felt more catered towards freshers. um, and the industries that Europe offered weren't necessarily the ones that I wanted to be in. And those were majorly, higher luxury and brands and things like that. Come to US, it truly looked like, an entire world full of possibilities. And I'll give you an example of what that meant for me. When I was working in Caterpillar, I would just go to the career website and look at job openings. In US, you would have anywhere around 600 positions. The next bet would be China with about 100, 120, and then followed by India with 80 to 90 positions. And you look at the positions that were there in the US, you name it and it was listed out there, right? So you could truly be anything. Then it came down to similar programs, MIS, MSBA, MEM. I also want to say MBA, but it's not really the same tier. So I want to call that out there because career outcomes are drastically different. And the one thing that stood between me and an MBA, as much as I would have wanted to do that, was getting a great score, which was proving to be very difficult for me, if I'm being honest. And then the second thing was the role that I was in was not strong enough to put my profile in that position. So then came the question, can you make an internal pivot to then wait it out for another 2 or 3 years to have a stronger profile for MBA, which again did not happen. I failed for some certain internal transitions that I wanted to make. So then the point was, okay, I'm not able to make that pivot. Does it make sense to stay in this role for another 2 to 3 years? The answer to that at a personal level was no, and MEM was the right choice. And the breadth that it would open was also nice in the sense that I didn't really have to commit to a career outcome that MSBA or MIS would expect off of me. MEM was slightly bit more wider. The other thing wherein I feel I differ a little bit from Saumya, so don't hate me on that, how I viewed the MEM degree was less of people management and still owning a particular product or an engineering process. So I wanted to stay closer to engineering, and I didn't necessarily view it as a management degree. I viewed it as trying to understand your niche by experimenting. That's what it was for me. But yeah, that's how I deducted it. Yep.
And I'm just going to stick with you for half a minute or so, right? And you mentioned you were evaluating MBAs, and oftentimes the MEM is viewed less and less so, but still as a poorer cousin to the MBA. While honestly, like you said, it's so very different in terms of outcomes, right? Was cost a factor that was in your mind when you're thinking that maybe not MBA, let me look at an MEM?
Yeah, yes, certainly. And I think, when you're talking about MBA, unless you go to M7 or worst case top 15, it just doesn't make sense, right? So, and all of those, I think for MBA programs, the cost is almost at par, right? Like 250K debt, you have to take it. That being said, I think the affordability still could have been managed. I feel like I could have taken that risk by going into a larger debt, but it almost became a bigger question about the profile readiness at that point. I would have certainly had to wait another 2 years and not just in the same role, but build it, right? Which I don't think I was willing to wait, but certainly cost, the kind of profile that you have, and whether or not you have a score is a big determining factor. And I think in MEM case, Purdue was the only one, at least back in 24, that mandated a score. Everywhere else it was optional, and now it has become optional even for Purdue. So you can do away with without having a score.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think adcoms have started to realize that the correlation between score and potential for success is, fairly limited, and that's the reason why they're still keeping it optional. But thank you so much for that and resonating with that, because this is what I've been advising folks for the last 2, 3 years as well. MBAs are really valuable for the network, and once you're outside the top 15, the incremental benefit to what you're investing is just not there. So really a lot of deep thought you put in, while picking programs. So thank you for that. Yash, let's look at you, Johns Hopkins. Very unfortunately, even till date, people say Johns Hopkins is good for medicine. No, what about engineering, which is so false, a victim of its own reputation in one state. But all right, that aside, when did you start thinking about the MEM, and when did Johns Hopkins, feature in your radar?
Yeah, my story is sort of similar to Maya's, where I was thinking of going to the US not right away after my bachelor's degree, but I do have my sister here since 11 years, and she was there for telling me what the ground reality is of staying here and having an education, and even her friends back then. So I did have an idea that I want to be working in the industry for a few years, understanding what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what I want to do, what I don't want to do, and then making a decision about what kind of pathway do I want to take going forward. And that actually cleared up a lot of things. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to work for 3 years before I applied for my master's degree. And I was working in a techno manager role already. I was in the operations management side, and I was getting good at it. I really liked it. I just wanted to pivot more towards product management. So I was thinking about getting an MBA first, but again, all of those reasons that we just discussed, like it needs a lot of work experience, first of all, to be eligible to apply. It's a lot of fees that they require. Again, it's a lot of risk that I was not ready to take. And of course, applying to the M7 is what I wanted to do. But all of these other factors, they kind of forced me to look at any other equivalent degrees that I can find that I can really use to land up the same kind of role that an MBA would. So that's when I started researching. I also had a couple of friends here in the US already who were pursuing their masters, not in MEM, but in some other degrees, and they had other friends who were pursuing MEM. So I did have a lot of chats with them when I was deciding, and I did get like a good overview of what an MEM is and what kind of curriculums do different universities have and the outcomes that they give. So yeah, that was pretty much the thought process behind it, and yeah, that's how I decided to get an MEM. And of course, your videos did help a lot. And I think uh, when I was researching, probably GradOne was the only channel that had the breadth of information about MEM as compared to anybody else. So that helped a lot.
Yeah, and my next question, Yash, and I'll stick with you, for the first response is about the rankings. And one of the most popular videos on the Gradwine channel is the MEM University rankings, and that's the single video that I regret and I'm embarrassed about. The only reason why I don't take it down is because it generates leads, right? People like rankings, and it was truly a little embarrassing visiting Northwestern, considering that a few folks have seen that video, and for some reason Northwestern didn't feature, and it's absolute nonsense, right? Like in terms of, is Duke ranked better than Johns Hopkins or is Purdue ranked better than Dartmouth? I don't think it matters. Maybe the tier of school matters, but what was your thought process? Did you really look at, no, I want to go to a university that is QS rank, above the other one, or did you realize that was futile soon enough, or did the choice of university just happen by chance? How did you pick between multiple admits, or did you have your dream school in your mind and stuff like that?
Yeah, the ranking never played a huge role. I looked at it because coming from an Indian background and having grown up in India, ranking is such an important thing, right from your school days, right? So it did have an impact as to ranking is a really important factor. But as I started talking to people who are already here and I started hearing their experiences of what tier university did they go to and what kind of jobs they landed, not only just in MEM but in other degrees as well, it was pretty clear that employers here really don't care about which kind of ranking university you're coming from for the kind of job that you're applying. You do get the same opportunities there. So ranking was never a huge factor. More important factor than ranking was the curriculum that I was going to go through. Because once you're in the university, nobody really talks about the ranking of the university. That's something for other people to talk about you. So it was actually the curriculum that I was looking at from the list of universities that I was going to apply to, as to what exactly I'm going to be learning, what kind of projects I'm going to be exposed to, who are the faculty members there. So a good ranking universities would actually have good faculties, true, but not always that those faculties or that curriculum would be the best for you. So, and once you're outside the university, nobody really even asks you what kind of QS ranking does your university belong from. So it's exactly what you put on your resume, what kind of projects have you done, what kind of skills have you gained from the program. So yeah, ranking is, I don't believe it's an important factor for you to make a decision out of.
Absolutely right. And the reason I asked this question is because that is the stage where most of our audience in the month of September is, right? We have a huge WhatsApp community, about 2,000 people in multiple groups, where the questions are, can you list the top 5 universities for CS, or top 10 for MEM, and which ones do you think I should apply to? Without understanding that curriculums are different, faculty is different. Some have co-op, some don't. Some are in a city, some are remote. Some offer high financial aid, some don't offer aid at all, and these are all things that you have to spend a lot of time. And I don't think on a WhatsApp group, if people are talking about 5 names, you apply. I know a lot of people, just because of ranking, apply to UT Austin for the MEM program, not knowing that it's a part-time weekend program, right?
Exactly.
Disastrous, right? Just applying to it. Okay, you might realize later and not attend, but you've spent on the applications. But thank you for that. And I would like to pivot this question a little bit, so as not to make it a little repetitive. But I want to understand that while the ranking is maybe not the primary factor, like a one size fits all ranking, but were there particular features of your program that maybe made your job search a little easier? Maybe some help from career services or your faculty, or the fact that your class was small, or any unique feature about your program that stood out for you? And I get Saumya into this. What really helped you with the co-op, or was there something that the university did because of its reputation or the quality through whatever it's offering that made the job search or upskilling easier for you?
I mean, definitely, career services help a lot. It's because there are certain type of resumes that are being followed in India, and there are certain type of resumes which are being followed in US. And you really need to understand how that system actually works in US, right? And career services are the best one who can help you out with that layout to start with. So at least you're not spending like 4 or 5 months with your Indian layout resume and you're getting rejections, tons of rejections, right? You want to set those basic foundations right from the day one itself. You talk to career services, they'll help you out, they will help you refine your points. And it's more about you tell what you want to actually write in all those bullet points, resume, whatever it is, and they will help you out. Along with career services, I think second thing which really helped me a lot is that I was not getting callbacks till like March, like second week of March, third week of March, and I was like, all my friends have got the offer letters, etc., etc. You really need to go that level where you actually go and start talking to your friends because you feel like okay, you don't want to be ashamed. Oh, I haven't got an internship. My friends have got. What should I do, etc., etc. But go and talk to your friends, talk to your close one, sit with them, share your resume with them, ask them like, what do you think? Because after a point, if you're seeing your resume like 30 times a day, you don't see any mistake in your resume. You are like, it's a black box now. I can't see anything else. I feel like, okay, this is the best resume I've got. But bringing in different perspectives also actually help a lot in just getting a full-time co-op or whatever it is. When it comes to co-op, I was very fortunate that Duke introduced co-op like couple of years back. And I think first year was like they were on the road, okay, like competing with other colleges, getting co-op opportunities. But I think this year it was like tremendous increase from the last year. Like I think like 20-30% people of our batch got into co-ops, and it's a huge number, right? And I do feel Duke University name, not the ranking, but at least the name does helps in getting a co-op, especially because it's a 6 month extended internship, you can say, right? And companies really want to invest in those people who are well educated, are coming from good universities, and they get good candidates at the end. So I think overall, career services, talking to your friends, have those resume sessions with your friends, and obviously talk to your seniors, see their profile, what are the different type of co-ops they have gotten into. If they've gotten into co-op into company A, ask them like how did they get into, is there anyone I can talk to in company A so that even I get a chance. Networking, I mean basically networking also helps, but at the end it's like you have to do different things and just sort it out what is working for you the best and then go in that direction. I think for me it was like taking help from my friends really helped me a lot in getting those callbacks.
And I did, a video with, Columbia CS grad, right? And he said the exact same thing that I heard from students who are there, where the entire master's journey becomes very transactional. So they're like, okay, I'm going there and spending so much. What is the placement rate? And I want a job, and I want a job within my first semester. Otherwise, what's the point of going to such an expensive university? Without understanding that the job search in the US itself works very differently, right? I mean, you don't network after you land there with a cold message saying, hey, can you refer me somewhere? It takes a lot of effort for you to both upskill and put in the effort consistently over long periods of time, and that's when the rewards that are absolutely worth it come through. And you were telling me this about how taking the effort and actually getting reviews from your friends and going the extra mile, and doing that little bit extra compared to just sitting there and hoping the university land you a job is so very important. Do you have any message for people who are getting into the job search to maybe set their expectations of what is to come?
100%. I mean, a lot of incoming students message me about these things, especially. And the one thing that I always say to them is like, just don't come with that expectation that you're gonna get a job just after you graduate from college. It generally takes like 6 months. Even the KPIs that people measure is like how many students actually got job within 6 months after they graduate. So it's not like a definite time frame, but be open. It will be difficult, right? It's not gonna be easy that you come out of a university and you get a job. Rather, I would suggest is like if you want to stay truly ahead in the race of all the students that you have, before you even land in US, start tracking the companies that you want to go in, make those top 50 list, start talking to those people, like even five people. So if you want to go to PM, BA, operations, supply chain, whatever it is, start talking to those five people. If you have like 250 people, at least 5% will reply you back and have that conversation going around with them. And if you are sorted in that direction, and once there is any internship or full time opening in that company, reach out to those people. Then they will help you out in referring. It should be a strong referral. It will help out. So if you're setting the foundations and making yourself clear from before you even land in US, I think you are already 90% ahead of the race. It's just that once you are here, you are packed with so many things. Whole day you are cleaning your utensils, you are making your food, you are going to university, attending classes, applying. Then what is the when are you getting your time? You're doing a part time. There are so many things. It's all about balance at the end. You need to figure that out. And literally no one could tell us how it's gonna work it out. You have to yourself figure that out. What's that one thing? I have to do it. And if you're doing it from day one itself, I think you're already 90% or 95% ahead of all the people. I didn't do that, but I always suggest everyone that you should do it. Otherwise, I was in a lot of stress in the month of March. What should I do? What should I do? But 100%, it's gonna be tough. You're coming here. It's not gonna be a leisure life, luxury life. I'm coming to US. I'll explore New York. I'll come to Vegas, gamble. It's not gonna be that at all. Day one, you're on the ramp. Start working hard. Be patient, and I think you will get there what you want.
Absolutely. Nothing good comes easy, right? And it never did. It's
Yeah,
not like a current
yeah.
situation thing, and people mix up multiple things, but good things, come with a lot of effort, and you have to be willing to put in that effort. And Maya, I'll bring you in here, right? In terms of, I know that Purdue, and you can cover some other point that maybe the other guys didn't touch upon along these lines, but if you could start us off by telling us about the co-op at Purdue, because I understand that that is truly fantastic. Does that make life a lot easier for those looking to break into the job market?
Let me start off with this. One internship in any program, right? Like a standard master's program allows you to do one internship. That in itself is not easy. And we've had friends who have not gotten those opportunities. Now think about Purdue, where it's three internships. So the effort is threefold, right? And I think the one thing that Purdue does, and for those of you that know about the program or are planning to apply, you must have heard of Eric Vanderwood. He is our program director. And one thing that he's the biggest champion about is, hey, yes, on the outside, it looks awesome that you guys did these three different internships or had one particular company where you spent almost an year with, but paint a real picture. Paint a real picture for everyone that's incoming to allow them to have the mindset that this is not a cakewalk. This is not easy, right? So I feel that is something that I've felt amongst all of my Purdue MEM cohorts and the ones that have come even after me, that the mindset that they come with is, okay, I have to be ahead of everyone. I have to get my game started even before I land, right? Like things that Saumya mentioned. I think the program starts doing certain sessions even before you join to put you in that mindset. And that's very important. Like they start helping you get connected with alumni. They are doing many different speaker panel sessions. Yes, they do a lot, but I would say that the baseline expectation shouldn't be that everything's going to be served on a silver platter, right? So that being said, I think when we start off in our first semester, we go all heads down. Like in my particular case, I had all of my three different internships figured out in the first semester, which is not easy. It takes a whole lot of work. And there are a lot of us at Purdue who end up doing that for themselves. Speaking for statistics, don't quote me on this. There's raw data that I remember from my time at Purdue, a couple of sessions that I've been in. I think the year that I started, so that is like the internship season for 2024. So the fall 23 batch, about I think a little over 85% of us had either spring or a summer internship by the first semester. And that statistics is amazing, right? And come spring, by the time summer arrives, a lot of us have already fed something or the other for us. How does that happen? You have this entire network of current students or past students that have gone on to these different organizations, that have been through the exact pain of trying to hunt three different internships while balancing their life. So we understand the pain and we want to give back to the university that has done so much for us, right? So when you reach out to somebody that has been part of that network, they'll be more than happy. And honestly, so much so that we'll be like, hey, you don't have to do all of that networking jargon with me. Just let's just cut to the chase and let me help you out, right? So that's sort of a mutual, I don't know, built upon understanding kind of thing that exists. And as for how much the career services help, I mean, I don't even know where to start, right? From starting right from how they enable you to go to conferences, the industrial roundtable. I got my internship from industrial roundtable. Tesla happened for me because there's a wonderful network of alumni from Purdue. And Texas A&M is another popular university for Tesla because they do co-ops. And once you have three different brands on your resume, or even one company that you have interned for almost a year long, the story that you're going out there and putting when you're doing your full-time search is, hey, these three different organizations could trust me in the US, so you can take a bet on me, right? Or like, let's say I worked for a year long with Amazon. Amazon would have seen something in me to extend that internship and make it three different semesters. So a company is more likely to take a risk with you then than not. And obviously, you yourself have tested out how things work in the US, and it might not count towards full-time work experience. Let's say if I had 3 years, I can't really go out there and claim now I have four just because I've worked for a year with three different companies. That's not how they look at it. That's not how I would recommend you to pitch yourself. Pitch it as three different internships, right? Like three different roles that you've held, and it could be widely experimental, and it gives you a great breadth, I feel. Yeah.
And that is where I was talking to you right at the beginning, right? Where the expectation is going to be the problem because of all these wonderful stats. And the program has to put out these stats because there's blunt questions during your information session. How many people got a
Yeah.
co-op? So people
Yeah.
are going in with the mindset that, okay, I'm going to land there. And in the second semester, a co-op is going to land in my lap. And that expectation setting is something that I think is critical for candidates, don't you think?
Absolutely, yes. And I feel, as I said, right, like because the program starts doing these sessions so much, and there are like multiple different, like they'll start doing one-on-one resume reviews, they'll start bringing in direct referrals and things like that. So if you're someone that's come with the mindset that, oh, I'm just going to chill and relax, you'll see your peers at extreme pace, and that will somehow put you in that motion, right? Like I've seen people who have been very laid back look up to the ones that are that are around them, and they're like, oh my god, I need to up my game. They might be a little late to the race, but it's a kind of a weird peer pressure, but in a healthy way, I would say. So it pushes you to think along the same lines and really put your best out there. And that's what we are trying to do, right? Like as alumni, we are trying to go out there and be like, hey, yes, this happens, but there is an immense amount of work that goes in there. You're expected to put in a lot more than probably any other university out there because there are three different internships, right? So just putting people in the right mindset or knowing what you're signing up for does a great deal. And I feel Eric or the entire MEM panel, they do a good thorough job at trying to find the right fit for the program through the interview, because these are certain things that I would assume that they're trying to assess, right? Like, can you live up to that cultural fit or not? And maybe if not, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not like Purdue doesn't want you. It just could be that, hey, maybe we are not the right fit for you. Maybe Johns Hopkins is, maybe Dartmouth is, because your requirements are different, right? Maybe you just want to do one internship, have something more entrepreneurial. Purdue doesn't do that for you, right? So the fit really matters. Yep.
Absolutely. And fit is everything, guys. So those of you who are evaluating your shortlists, you have to understand that every single university in your list has to be something that you're happy going to, at least to a 70 or 80%. You cannot have a random list that your friend has just because they have a similar profile, right? Each program can be career defining for different people in different ways, and you really need to think in depth about that and do your research. There's no substitute for spending hours understanding these universities. So I hope you can understand that. Yash, I'm going to bring you in here. With respect to Johns Hopkins, one thing that I heard while I was on campus and with the tons of students that we interact with from there is that the coursework and the experiential projects that are offered as part of the curriculum are a little game changing in terms of the eventual interview process, right? In terms of the stuff that you can talk about. Was there any particular part of the program at Johns Hopkins that stood out to you that was maybe transformational for you as a professional in terms of the skills you gain, plus also eventually when you are entering the job market? Anything specific you can point out from there?
Yeah, in terms of the curriculum, which is one of the reasons why I chose Johns Hopkins over the other admits that I had, it does give you the opportunity of working on a lot of client projects in the first semester when you land there. So the first semester, as Saumya and Maya were mentioning, that it's a lot of work because we are working with so many different clients at the same time. And the kind of breadth of experience and the skills that that particular curriculum gives you is something that I was exactly aiming for. And there were different clients from different industries. Like to begin with, we have a project with the Johns Hopkins Hospital. So one of the best hospitals in the world, best people you're surrounded with, and the kind of problems that you can work on. And these are and we act as student consultants there because it's a strategy class that that project is for. So the kind of solutions and the recommendations that we recommend to them, they were actually implemented in the hospital. So you get a chance of interacting with the top people there, understanding the problem, and also whatever is taught in the class, you get an opportunity to apply that in person on the project that you're working on. So that gives you a lot of real world consulting experience, and that was something that really hit home for me because I had not worked on such interesting projects from different industries and working with actual clients there. So I think that gave me a lot of experience and the skills that I could talk about in the interviews. And that is something that always I notice that I have something additional as compared to other peers of mine, other universities. So that really stood out. And of course, there is the immersion program that Johns Hopkins has, which is the USP of it. So not only working on consulting projects in the US, but having consulting projects from 6 different countries. So that is an option that you get, and that is also a good way of blowing off some steam after you have worked really hard for almost 3.5 months. So that's a good experience all in all, and it makes your resume stand out really.
Yeah, I heard that the current cohort or the previous cohort that I was talking to in May did their consulting project for a bunch of companies and startups in Portugal, which is
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. You get exposure to the professional space in the European geography, right? No, I don't know of too many other programs that offer that. And before I go into the application process part of it, right now, I know we stood with the job search and the experience during the program a lot. I'm sure our audience is curious about the application process part of it as well. This is where you guys were starting to write your statement of purpose, right? I hope you've noted some of these things because this is exactly the kind of stuff admissions committees would like to see on a statement of purpose. If you write a last paragraph stating that the course in product management and marketing and supply chain analytics will give me a holistic skill set that will make me a great tech leader, nobody wants to read that, right? Because you replace the three subjects names with something else, and the sentence still holds true. The level of specificity in terms of why you believe the program is a great fit for your goals, this is the kind of specificity you need, and that's why you need mentors who've been through the journey, right? This is the actual difference maker. And now, whether you sign up with us or no, make the effort of at least talking to people and doing deep research instead of writing a one size fits all last paragraph. People ask me about chat gpt and whether it can write an effective sop. Sure, provided your inputs are this deep, right? Otherwise it's just going to be something very generic. Do your research. Admissions committees really care about that while drafting a document. It's not about writing quotes and writing a beautifully drafted document which says a lot but conveys nothing. The depth in research is very important, and these are some fantastic inputs that our folks have given you, and I hope you view this recording later to maybe at least keep these points in mind. That will be incredibly valuable to you. And with my rant over, I'm going to move on to more valuable insights from you guys, right? The application process. I want you all to list out, if possible, one thing that you believe you did really well, or one decision you made with the application process that really worked in your favor, and one mistake that you made, which luckily didn't have repercussions because you made it to great places, or at least where you course corrected. So one thing that you did really well, one mistake, so that our audiences can take the good parts and avoid the mistakes. If anybody needs time, it's fine. Whoever wants to go first can just shoot.
You put us all in a spot,
I know,
Shrikar.
right? I know, right?
But great question, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I've been nice so far, so I thought might as well do this.
Yes.
I can go ahead.
Go ahead, Saumya, please.
Yeah. So one thing I think that stood, according to me, uh, pretty well during this entire SOP, LOR resume thing, specifically SOP. I think it's like how you tell your story, right? I was also like reviewing or seeing SOPs of a lot of incoming students. And if I don't like the first two, three lines or the first paragraph, it feels like you're not even engaging the person to even read the SOP after that, right? So even from like line one, it should be engaging. I remember when I was coming here, I read someone's SOP and it was about that she wanted to go in supply chain and she started her story with Formula One. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like, okay, I'm engaged from line one itself. Like, okay, how is this gonna be? How is it gonna pan out from Formula One to supply chain? Right. And she explained the entire story, mechanics, engineers, uh, such an amazing industry, data points. And I was like, okay, I think this is the way you actually write your SOP, right? Even if you have to start from the day you were born, do it. But make sure that the story is panning out in such a way that it eventually comes at, I feel like masters at XYZ university is something good for me. For me, it was like I always wanted to go in Apple or Nike as my dream companies. Uh, I started with Nike's book, The Shoe Dog. So it was that book that felt like, okay, product management is something very inspirational from Shoe Dog, right? And I felt like, okay, this is a story that I can actually write because it is very personal to me. You can use ChatGPT. There is no block to not use it. But obviously, you need to be very deep with all the inputs that you're giving. Otherwise, if I give you two resumes, it will two SOPs, it will literally look the same. It's just that the words or the thesaurus or synonyms are just different. So make sure your story is out in a very good way that it feels like, okay, if I show it to someone else, will they read it from line one till the end? And if they're not, I think it's something that you really need to work on. And it will take time. SOPs takes at least a month or couple of months. You will go into like V40 SOP, V45 SOP, version 46, and you're like, okay, now this is the final one. And you will feel very proud after that, right? I started from V1 and I went up to like V26, V27. Then I was like, okay, I got my final SOP and that's how I can submit. Coming to the mistake part, I think a lot of people do it. I'm pretty sure everyone does it. Is like, just don't talk about courses and faculties in your paragraph when you write about universities. It is important, agreed. But that is such a basic research that everyone does. You can literally go on Duke MEM curriculum and you'll see it. It's like one search, right? Go get that extra effort, talk to student ambassadors in those universities, talk to the people who are already there, take insights from them. Like, for example, Duke University, you can talk about Duke Chapel, like how beautiful it is, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't write about it, but you need to show that depth. Okay, I have researched enough about Duke. Talk about the five professional principles of Duke. A lot of people don't do that. And if you even apply for Duke application, there is a question which says about, talk about your five leadership pillars that Duke follows. You need to do that extra effort. Just don't write, okay, I want to study under Professor XYZ because he's so great. I mean, everyone is going to write that. Literally everyone will write that. You need to take that extra effort on understanding the whole process. Even if it takes times, you are going to spend $100,000 minimum. So you need to spend at least 100 hours, I would say, 1% or less than 1% of that, 0.1%, to just get there. Do that extra effort. It's not like, it's not a silver spoon you apply and like now waiting, oh, I couldn't get into the university because you didn't do the hard work. That's why you didn't get into any universities. You know, you need to take that extra mile, extra jump, and make sure that you're standing out among the rest of the crowd. And if you're doing that, 100%, universities will take you and they will feel that, okay, you are the right fit.
And this sort of answers the question, because I was getting a lot of queries this time of the year again in our WhatsApp group, is, do you know any good SOP writers? And there were a couple of links saying this person gives SOP in 15 days. And like, what SOP will they give in 15 days? Like, this is literally, sabotaging your own application. You're getting somebody to write it from scratch, right? But thank you for that. And that it's very, very important that you convey that through your SOP. And now for the MEM, like Duke doesn't have an SOP, it has 3 essays this year. Unfortunately for the students and us, it's changed, right? There's a brand new question that we have to sit and figure out what a good answer is for that, right? And the additional documents, all of them are so very, very important, and you guys really need to start thinking about it and working on it early. Did the others have enough time to gather their thoughts and jog their memory and give us an answer about the one good thing with the application and one mistake they made? Who wants to go next?
I think I can take a shot.
Yeah.
Wow, so that was what, almost 3 years ago now. I think it's gonna sound very similar to Saumya. I think Saumya, great inputs there. I think you really spelled it out very well. One of the questions that I kept asking myself when I was working on my SOP, and I don't think it's a very SOP specific thing, but more of a guiding principle for me. I keep asking myself, whatever I'm putting or whatever is the kind of effort that I'm putting in, is that what everybody else is doing? And if the answer to that is yes, I got a course correct, right? Like if everyone is mentioning, like if it feels like, oh, MEM is at the intersection of engineering and management or tech and management, it's the same, excuse me, but give up it answer, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to give that. And then you keep asking yourself, okay, how is it that I can, here's how I like to put it, two things, customized and personalized. Is it just catered to me? When I say personalized, is it just about me? What that means is Soumya cannot steal my story and say, hey, this is mine, right? Because it's going to be all about my experiences, all about the things that I have lived through. And when I say customized, it is everything about that one university. Like, not a single portion of that SOP should be applicable to another university. And that's how special you have to make it. That's how special a reader from that particular university should feel, right? Like, hey, you are telling me you want to be part of this university, and I'm not even seeing the effort going in there. How is it that I can trust you that you can come in, be part of our culture, go out there and represent the university in the best possible light? So that passion has to come out. Extreme passion has to be read through when you're writing those SOPs, right? I think couple of elements that I focused on, other than just catering every particular SOP to that specific university, was just start from scratch for a new university. That's what I would say. Don't try and modify an existing one, just start from scratch. That helps. Like, take a clean slate, get started with a new one. Yes, obviously there are chunks that will be similar, but just try and start from scratch, right? One of the other things that I will recommend you do is, and this is like one of the first steps before you start doing your SOP, LOR, any of that, take a blank paper or take a notepad, whatever is comfortable with you. List out your stories in like one single liner, no depths, right? Like the time that I won an award in my final year, or the time that I got my first job, right? All of these stories, just like do a very draft version of that. Let's say you have about 20 stories that you're able to list out. Now, try and decide which one of these are strong to be part of an LOR, which one of those are strong to be part of an SOP, right? Now, once you've segregated those in SOP for universities that have different essays, try and see, let's say I've decided 10 stories are going to go in my SOP. Now, my SOP is going to be three different versions of essay answers, right? Which story speaks the best to that particular essay? Say I've got two stories for question one, three for question two, four for question three. Segregate them that way. Do the same thing with LOR. You have 10 story topics. You have got three different recommenders. Who is it that can best vouch for each one of those stories, right? So once you have done that, what that ensures is it promises you that you're not going to be repetitive. Each element of your application is going to focus on a different aspect and going to shed extreme light on all possible positive sides that you want to highlight to the admissions committee, right? At the same time, I feel one thing that, I want to move on to the mistake, or it might sound a little snobbish, but I think I did everything possible that I could have in my application process. So no real regrets, but I'll tell you one thing. I spoke with somebody during my application process who was so proactive that she had gone out and reached out to professors from Dartmouth, from Purdue, just to have one on ones, right? And what that helped her with is when she was interviewing with the committee, she could name drop those professors' names and she could talk about the conversations that she had. And that was not even something that I thought of, right? And I was like mind blown, like, oh my God, that shows effort. You want to get into the university, you did your due diligence, you reached out to those professors, you learned what they do, right? And doing something similar with alumni students, that's also another good thing, right? The intent behind that is collect those inputs. Like, let's say you're name dropping, say Saumya's name during a Duke interview. Probably the director is going to know what he has done, right? And if there is a misalignment just because you saw Saumya on LinkedIn and you're quoting him, that can get you into trouble. So don't do that. Actually have a conversation with Saumya and mention things that you two interacted about. Yep.
Absolutely. And thank you. And this is true mentorship, right? This is precisely the input that comes in. Don't look at making the process easy. Again, if you start trying to make the application process easy, somebody's filling it out on your behalf. Sure, it works for the dime a dozen ordinary universities out there, but the good ones, people are doing that extra, doing everything to get that competitive edge, throughout, right? And for all you guys who want, this sort of advice with regards to the application process, I know a lot of you are, sitting down and evaluating, should I go to the US or the Netherlands or Ireland, which are reasonable choices. I'm seeing people evaluating, randomly, should I go to Finland for some reason? Finland seems to be very popular since the past 1 week. I don't know which influencer wrote about that, but yeah. Again, make rational decisions. First of all, country of choice right now and the process. You can schedule your free consultations with us using the link that my colleague Divya is putting in the chat box. And it's a consultation, right? It's just not, selling you stuff and scaring stuff. But at this point and throughout the process, the right advice is very important. And this is what mentorship looks like. You're seeing it from the panelists. Yash, I'm going to move on to you now, and the same thing in terms of the process. One thing that you did very well. One thing that maybe a mistake you made or you've seen people making that applicants should not. And then we'll quickly move on to the dime a dozen questions that people have. So you guys can spend time putting your questions in the Q&A box, please, not the chat box. But we'll move on to Yash.
Sure. So one thing that I think I did right was making sure that all of the experiences that I had, whatever background I had, I did not only put what I did, I made sure that I mentioned why I did that and what was the outcome of it. What I noticed when I was going through how to write an SOP in the beginning when I was going to write it is that a lot of the sample SOPs that I had gotten hold of from people I knew on the internet as well is that people wrote a lot of content about I've done this, I've done this, and this is my goal, and this is why I want to do it. So that is fine, but every experience was a different paragraph. There was no connection in between them. So when you're telling your SOP, you're actually narrating a story. Like this is my background, and these are the experience I've been through, and this is the skills I have, and this is the gap that I see, and I want to fill that gap with a degree, right? So that connection of paragraphs, I think, is what I've noticed, and I think I did a lot of versions, like Saumya was mentioning. So I made sure that I refined that as I was writing my SOP. And the second thing that actually you helped me a lot, speaker, is that emphasizing on the specificity of what you want to. It's not a bachelor's degree; it's a master's degree that you're applying for. So specificity becomes a very important aspect there. It cannot be generic. You cannot be throwing around big terms that I want to do this, that, and that's what the MEM stands for. You have to tailor it to you, like what kind of industry you want to be going into. It should not be specific to like, okay, one goal at all. You can have two or three goals that an MM degree can take you towards. And those are the prospective goals that you see yourself in the future, right? So having that specificity is something that I have noticed is missing a lot of times. So not only mentioning your story, but connecting everything to a very nice specific goal, coming down to the roles that you want to be targeting, the industry you want to be joining, and what kind of problems do you want to be solving. So I think that gives a very undeniable proof to the adcom that this is a person who has been thinking about their goals, their career very seriously, and they have a proper purpose as the document is the statement of purpose. Their purpose is very clear. It cannot be, like out in the dark, And one thing that I think I missed upon is not getting a lot of reviews in the beginning. So one thing I did was I was not enrolled to Gradvine back then, but I thought later on, like it was around the month of November or December, I think that I should be getting my ICP reviewed from people who are already in the program there. So that's when I started not only using but exploiting LinkedIn. So it's a lot of cold messaging that I did, and actually some folks were really helpful and they were open to reviewing my SOPs. These are the people who were either alumni or were in the program itself. So getting that third person's perspective, and you know your story really well. When you write it, you think that everything connects so well. But when a new person who has no idea who you are, like an adcom, it's the same experience, and they would point out that, hey, this thing does not connect to the next thing that you've done, or your goals may not be exactly with what you're targeting for this particular university. So that is something I think Gradvine does really well, is that connecting students to the right mentors, so that everything is being reviewed by a person who is not your friend or somebody who knows your journey, but who has done an MEM in the exact program that you want to go into. And you can get some really good review points from them and get your SOPs really refined all through the way. So that is
Absolutely.
something I did eventually, but it was a little later. So, in the end, I was really scrambling to make sure that everything is up to date and really refined.
All right, thank you so much for that, Yash. Very kind words from you. And that takes me to one little point which will help the audience as well. People write in their SOPs that this professor is good and that course is excellent and this location is great. They know they're good, right? Duke knows their MEM program is good. Purdue knows its MEM program is good. Why is it good for you? Right? Your story and the relevance of their offerings to your story and your aspirations is something that needs to come through, and that takes time. And I'll move to the questions. And I think the massive elephant in the room about the $100,000 fee that has to be put in for H1B filing. I don't think anybody has a complete clarity. Not even the people who made the announcement, evidently, considering the backtracking that has happened since then. But even though it's very unclear, if any of you guys is open to it, what is your take on this? Even though it's still very, very unclear. Does anybody want to take a crack on what your interpretation of it is and the implications? And maybe if you want to look at a crystal ball and tell folks what's going to happen, only if you're comfortable discussing it. Otherwise, we'll skip. That's fine.
I wanna take a shot at this.
Sure.
My perspective, immigration laws are not in our control, never have been, be it US or whatever country you go to. Things are always volatile. I think what helps me at a personal level is becoming extremely comfortable with the idea that, hey, upon graduation, let's say I spent my 3 years of OPT in the US, I should not hate the idea of going back to India and fending for myself there. That's about it. No matter what country you go to, no matter what kind of laws come in, I think that's one thought you need to be comfortable with before coming in here or anywhere in the world, right? That being said, India is a geography with immense opportunities. If I'm being honest here in this call, the reason I left the place is because I cannot compete here. I cannot compete in Indian geography. The profiles are that amazing. It's so competitive that I had to leave the country and fend for myself, right? So if you're the best and the brightest, you'll be just fine in India as well. So don't look at it as a means of escaping. That's not what it is. You are not in a war-struck nation or anything like that. You have got your family back there. It's extremely comfortable life. And it's very easy for me to be on the other side and say all of this. So I get that, right? Like it can be like, oh, if it's that convenient, why did you go? I've gone there, but I'm also not stuck to the idea that, hey, if after 3 years I'm not able to stay longer, my life's going to fall apart or everything was banked upon that. Like that's not the idea that I came in with. Um, that being said, yes, it's nerve wracking to see all of these different changes. But here's what I tell myself: it has nothing to do with me working hard. So I have absolutely no control over it. So if it affects me, it affects just everyone as equally. So I feel comfortable with that level of fairness. Like, hey, it's not a diss at me on a personal level or my candidacy. So I'll take that, right? Like we all know that H1B has been a lottery. So we are taking that risk. There are just little bit nuances being thrown at us. And I don't think you should be bothered about that as of now. There's enough on your plate as an applicant to be worried about that. And yes, I know finances is a big aspect as well. A lot of people, a lot of us, we are taking bigger debts. We are sometimes, leveraging our ancestral homes and whatnot, right? So it's a bigger commitment. I understand that. So evaluate your options. I think if that's the scenario, you need to keep in mind that, hey, push comes to shove, if I have to return back after 3 years, will I be in a fine condition to then look after myself? You shouldn't be like, oh, 3 years, I'm not able to pay off my debt. That's it. I've lost 2 homes and my family is out on the streets. I don't think that's ideal. But
And to
but yeah,
that,
that's my take.
and that's precisely right. Like do that calculation. Are you in a position where you will likely repay whatever debt you've taken on, maybe save a little bit during that 3-year OPT? Because the H1B has always been a lottery. There was always a chance, and not recently that it just may not get picked. But Maya, I'm going to ask you this question. This is perhaps a little bit more profound and deeper, apart from the myopic. Can I settle down in the country that I'm going to? Right? Would you believe that post the degree, the co-ops and internships you've done, and now you're working full time, of course, still new into it, a lot more to go there, that you would generally become a more hireable asset and a well-rounded person who can do great irrespective of the geography? Have you got a sense of that post the program and through all these experiences?
That's a good question. And, I was asking myself something very similar a couple of days back that, hey, it's been a long time since I've actually applied for jobs in India. So I don't really know how that process has transformed. But I would like to believe that, having that global exposure helps, right? Like, hey, you've worked in, because most of the opportunities that we have in India, when you're trying to look for jobs, it's in MNCs, right, that are headquartered in the US. So if you've had that exposure, they'll be like, okay, she understands that culture, she understands the pace, she understands the expectation. And I think it definitely makes me more employable than without that degree. Like, am I better with this degree and all of these experiences uh, uh, when compared to what I was when I was in back in India? Absolutely yes, right? Like, and that's the only comparison point that I have. So the answer, hands down, is yes. But I don't know how adaptive the global geography is. That is, like, just because you have a US degree, I cannot like go ahead and apply for a job in Singapore and just get it, right? There are immigration laws, like things become more complicated. So I'm not going to go ahead and say that, oh, just because you have a US degree, you could pick a country of your choice, apply there and go. Probably people do that, yeah, but I don't think that switch is as easy. And I don't think it anyways has been ever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I'd love to hear the take of the both of you as well, Soumya, in terms of do you want to do a crystal ball thing, or do you want to give a more profound answer to that? Your choice.
I think it's crystal ball, and I completely echoes Maya's thought. At the end, what do you have in your hand? Working hard, right? Laws, this law might be there, might not be there. There might be another law which might come after 1 week, 1 month. At the end, you have your main goal is to study well and get a job, right? These immigration laws, they will keep on happening. They might get changed in any day, any week, any months, right? But your job is to just stay in that one direction where just applying, getting a job, repaying your loans if you have, and then eventually decide what you want to do, right? That's the main goal that everyone comes up with that. So keep that focus. I know it's going to be tough. It was already tough, and now it's like almost like death, but it will be fine. It's not that, as Maya said, it's for everyone. It's just not for you that they're targeting. Everyone is going to be in that same boat, right? Just keep your head down and just work hard and keep that motive and goal why you are coming to US. You're not coming to US because, oh, I want to stay in US for like 15 years. Like everyone has that American dream. I agree. But the first goal is that, okay, I need to get a job at least first, right? And you need to work hard for that. It's not easy. It's not like a silver spoon, right? So if you're in that direction, and just obviously be aware, awareness is very important, but be in that direction of the goal that you already have before coming to the US.
And make those decisions wisely, right? Whether you're looking at alternative countries or programs, a strong ROI, don't. Why would you go to Finland? Like, just because there's bad news
Yeah.
about the US, it doesn't make Finland. I'm sorry, I'm bringing up that country again and again. It doesn't magically make that a better and more viable destination, right? It's not you're going because you have to leave the country. If you're going with that objective, you're already thinking about it all wrong.
Yeah.
Friends, it has to be very, very well thought out. And the other fact is you're starting in fall 26, you're going to be graduating 2027, 2028. Who knows what's going to happen 3 years down the
Yeah.
line? I think nobody can predict that, right? So you need to make a reasonable decision. Apply to alternative countries if you wish, but it all has to be rational. Every single one should make sense in terms of your immediate ROI. Now, beyond that, it's anybody's guess what could happen, right? Essentially. Yash, what about you? Do you want to do the crystal ball, or do you want to, give advice in general, practical advice?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly a crystal ball thing, but the most practical thing that you could do is you have to be a hustler. They are making it very crystal clear that they don't want B players. They want somebody who is really good at what they do, and they command those higher salaries to be awarded the H1B. And now they are making it even harder for people who are not that's what the H1B is for. It's a skilled worker visa, right? So they don't want anybody who is less skilled coming from outside of the country and taking jobs of Americans here. So if you want to be coming here, it is very clear that you have to be in a very hustle mindset and you have to be really good at what you want to be doing. If that is not the goal, then I don't think this is the country you want to be aiming for. And it is becoming more and more apparent every single day that it is the survival of the best and the fittest.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
also, why do you want to be taking up loans north of 40, 50 lakhs and not being the best at what you do? So if you're going to be taking so much risk, rather have a lot of, like build those skills and be the best at what you do. And as we know that visa is not something that we have a say in. We are going to be simply facing the consequences of it. We are not going to be able to control it. So might as well be the best guy that there is in your field so that you are employable, if not in the US, back in your home country. So that's what every company wants. They want the best employee that they can get. So the country might change, you might be facing those consequences, but at least you did your hard work. You are the professional that you probably should be aiming for, like the best person in your field. And this is basically, I don't think that everybody should be looking at the visa change, the $100,000 fees thing as a bad thing. It is actually they're streamlining all of this abuse that was happening of the H1B visa, and they're incentivizing all of the people to, be really good at what you do. And now that the levels have also come up, the hard work of all of the students who are going to be applying starts right now. That you go into your best university, you get your really good education, you work really hard, you get your internships, your jobs, you start paying off loans faster. So even if everything goes south, you, say H1B is cancelled tomorrow. At least you stay for 3 years, you pay off your loans, you get your skills in, you go back to your home country, and still you can start up with a really good position there. So I
Absolutely.
think,
And I'm happy that, I mean, on the flip side, I won't say I'm happy. It's a painful, thing every day, announcements coming in and the uncertainty. But I've known people who've been on H1Bs whose job role literally was scanning physical documents into PDFs and converting them. And because there's no element of merit on the H1B, it was completely, lottery based. These guys were on H1Bs put by job consultancies to do these menial jobs, getting paid what, $12, $13 per hour. Absolute exploitation. And because it's a lottery, probably somebody who's been recruited at Walmart or Amazon or Microsoft, lost their chance because it's a lottery at the end of the day. So we don't know. But at the end of the day, for all of you who are looking at like Governor State University and the University of Kentucky at Smallville and all of that stuff, which consultancies sell you. There are universities called this, by the way, if you guys are not aware, right? Don't go to the US at this point. You cannot use your university as a ticket to immigration at the lowest possible cost. You will be in a lot of trouble. You need to make a very, very well thought out decision there, right? Guys, I know we've gone past the hour mark, and I will not compel you to, stay any longer to answer questions, because I understand that, we had a decided time frame. I'm going to hang back and answer questions in any case, but if the rest of you have maybe 10, 15 minutes more and would like to answer some of these questions, you can hang back. But beyond that, I will not keep you guys as panelists, in case you have to leave and go into other commitments. So do let me know if anybody wants to drop off. If you want to stay back and answer questions, we can get to it. All right. All of you want to stay?
Fine to stay. Yeah.
Fantastic. Maya, any question that stands out to you that you want to take? And, I'll start picking out the others in the meantime so that we are more
Yeah, I
efficient.
tried answering a few alongside the session, but common theme that I think collectively that I'm seeing is, as a fresher, should I do an MEM? Like, this is one of the most trending questions. I can share my 2 cents on it. Um, yes, the program, not just at Purdue, but majority of the programs under MEM-PC, if you leave out programs by, I think, MIT has a requirement for minimum years of work experience. So let's set that aside. But other than that, pretty much all the other programs are open to freshers, right? Like, they want to have a good balance. That being said, in the last 3 to 4 years, and the reason I'm going back as long as 4 years is because it's been a while since I've been following the trends of MEM myself. So in the last 3 to 4 years, the people who are signing up for this program have more and more work experience. The average age of the class is more skewed towards 25 to 26 years old, which does mean everyone joining in comes with, not everyone, most of us joining in come with about 3 to 4 years of work experience, right? That being said, that doesn't mean you cannot get into the program as a fresher, but that's just the first step. You also have to survive the program. You also have to survive the competition. Remember, it is a non-thesis based master's program almost all across MEMPC. So here's what happens when you join in as a fresher. You don't have a technical niche because you've not worked in the industry. You might have done some kind of specialization during your undergrad. Unfortunately, that doesn't really count unless you have applied that to the real world. So you don't really have a technical niche. You also don't have work experience. Now, me as an experienced professional can go out there and say, hey, maybe I don't know data analytics tools, but I've been in the industry for 3 years. So the company will be willing to take that bet on me and make that compromise. You as a fresher will not be able to make a strong pitch with a non-thesis master's as to why you should be hired, because there is no differentiation between you that has a master's right out of undergrad and somebody that has an undergrad, because it's a non-thesis master's. So you have to be able to define that gap. A thesis based master's helps you do that better, right? Because, hey, I went to get this master's right after my undergrad to then go take a deeper dive into this particular subject, and now I'm an expert at it. So hire me. So that's one of the things that you want to be careful about as a fresher applying for MEM. That being said, I have seen some freshers that have gone out to do wonderfully for themselves. So not impossible, but just know that you will have to work much harder uh, than your regular classmates, right? Because they've already set the bar, and your competition is not just going to be with MEM folks from your program, but all other programs who have work experience. So just keep that in mind and know what you're signing up for.
All right. There was another question, and I'd like one of you guys to take a crack at it. Right. The question is about with AI taking over job roles. Do you think the kind of skills that an MEM gives you and the kinds of jobs that it opens you up to are still going to be relevant and in demand in the industry? How is AI playing out in terms of a product manager's role or a project manager's role or a supply chain manager's role? Has it been replacing jobs? Is it still a relevant skill set? The MEM. Who wants to take a crack at that?
Yeah, I'll go for it. Right now, it's pretty early to directly point out that, hey, your jobs are going to be replaced by AI, especially for a product manager. The only thing that I've been noticing is that your the way that you performed your job would be changing. You would be integrating AI into your daily workflows. So that is the biggest change that I've been noticing. And all of these big headlines that AI is going to be taking up your job are, I don't think they are really practical right now. So an MEM degree, of course, there are many, I've been noticing at Johns Hopkins as well, they are integrating all of these AI related courses into their curriculum. So yes, the programs are actually teaching their students what can they do with AI and how can AI empower them. So I think, of course, all of these MEM degrees do stay relevant still.
And the next part, I'm sorry, I'm going to take this because it's kind of disrespectful from somebody called anonymous attendee, right? Of course, you're anonymous making statements like that. So it goes something like less and less companies are hiring candidates requiring H1B grads. It's going to be much tougher for immigrants to find jobs. Just hustling doesn't work like these folks are saying. Let me tell you this, my friend. Exactly 1 year back, at the same time, there were similar comments when perhaps Maya, Yash, and Saumya worked very hard. Please don't invalidate the work they've put in and the hustle and the results they've achieved, right? Same thing a year back, people were saying, that the US is in a recession, hustling doesn't work, nobody's going to get jobs. This was circa 2024, and you have three examples who've hustled and overcome naysayers, right? So if you want to be, the ones who are going to, act like know-it-alls and, pass comments anonymously, that's where you're going to remain. And at the end of the day, hard work does pay dividends overall, right? And there will be rewards overall. So don't, say stuff like hustling doesn't work and these guys had it easy. They did not, right? They had their own set of challenges, and trust me, the job market was not fun for the last 1 year. So let's refrain from making such comments. I think this is a mature decision and they're spending time giving you useful advice. Sorry for the rant. I just had to address it because you always have, one of these guys just commenting without any sense of responsibility whatsoever. All right. Did anyone else find a question that they wanted to touch upon?
I want to add something to what you said, Srikar.
Sure, yeah.
Hustling is something that never goes away, actually. So if you're going to be thinking that staying in India is going to be very comfortable for you, no, finding a job in India is also very competitive, as Maya was mentioning.
Yeah.
If not the US, I think India is equal to or more competitive than the US. So if coming to the US is someone is thinking is more of a hustle, no. Every country, especially as competitive as India, it's hustle is something that nobody's spared. It's there and it's even increasing as you go forward. So if you want to be making sure that you get a job, hustle is something you have to be okay with.
All right. Saumya, did you recognize any questions or do you want me to pick one for you?
Yeah, I think main was around freshers and the AI thing, and I think both Maya and Yash have answered that, so you can pick any question.
All right. And I'll shoot this to you if the others want to add to it. Is the MEM a useful degree to pursue if you work on the OPT for 3 years and come back to India? I think that's a thought that a lot of people should be comfortable with, not because of the current circumstances, because your H1B might not get picked. That's the reality. But how are you thinking about it from a personal sense? Because I know there's no one size fits all answer to this.
Uh, I'll be very honest. So I don't want to stay in US after like 3 years. For me, it's like I repay my loan, I get some money, and then I go back to my parents, to be very honest. So I'm not seeing this whole H1B thing as of now a cumbersome thing to me, especially when it comes to is MEM degree useful or not. It is definitely useful. I mean, why it won't be useful, first of all? Like any degree you do, it is helpful, right? If you want to do it in the right way. It's not like, okay, you come, you chill, relax, and go back. Then any degree won't help you. Even like MSCS or Harvard, Stanford doesn't. It's not gonna help you, right? So MEM, be it MEM, MIS, MBA, whatever it is helpful, right? They have literally the best faculties out there who just think in that direction. These faculties can get $1 million jobs in any companies because they are that skilled, right? But they are actually teaching at those universities and make wants to make sure that the next generation of students are coming, they take on these roles, right? Otherwise, why would they even do that? These are those faculties who are very passionate about teaching and educating people, right? That's why overall I feel you do any degree, but specifically MEM, it is really helpful because it's such a degree that you learn from both the management point of view as well. If you want to become a product manager, there are courses which are specifically tailored to product management. You can take engineering courses as well from different schools. It was one of the question I think someone asked about you, that can I take like different courses? Can I have a custom track? Definitely you can. I think most of the universities offer that. It's not that, okay, these are the 8 courses that you want to do, go do it, right? You can literally pick any course among those 100, 200 courses that are out there, be it from Fuqua, the MBA school, be it from Nicholas Environment School, whatever you want to study, university is there to help you out. They are not going to restrict you in studying any course. They will help you out. So doing a degree, specifically MEM, I think it's pretty useful. And even if you have to go back India after 3 years, I don't think so you will have any regret. On your resume, at least, it's gonna look great because experience matters in whatever country it is at the end. If you're a PM or a supply chain analyst or whatever it is, it's gonna help you out because company would have just laid off you if you're not a great candidate, right? even to sustain in the job is not easy. It's not like you get a job and it's done. There are so many people, like, I'm going to talk about skills. I talk to my recruiter. They're like 1,000 applicants who apply for an internship. If I'm not there, they have plethora of candidates who they can pick, right? So it's just about that at the end. So again, I would say head down, but you need to hustle. There is no other substitute for that.
Yeah. Saumya, I want to touch upon this thing. I know we touched upon it briefly when you were at Duke. What's the scene with Duke and this golden visa in the UAE?
Oh yes. I mean, yeah, I think it's not just for Duke. I think it's with a lot of universities. I think there is a website online
Top 100.
where you can see top 100 universities that are there. And if you are from like Duke, especially, you can apply to these visas for like UAE, I think UAE, UK, Portugal, I think. Like there are three, four countries that you can go and you can get those visas. Like for, I think for UAE, it's like 10 years of work visa that you can get if you are graduating from any of those top 100 universities. And I think it's pretty good deal with all these conditions that you are facing around. If and you are getting that option that, okay, you are in the good universities, you can literally apply for those visa, right? And especially for UAE with like good political and relations with India as well, it's a great option for you as well if you feel like, okay, I don't want to come to US as well. So you need to be aware about these conditions as well, and a lot of people are not aware about these things. You can, if you feel like, okay, it's been a year now, I haven't found a job in US, no worries, you can still apply for visas for different countries and apply to those jobs. It's not a cumbersome process like any other. Because you are in those top 100 universities, you can get it very easily.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Maya, you have something to add?
Yeah, just something about the hustle. Fun fact about the US, I think, and especially coming from India, it took me a little while to become comfortable with the idea. And God forbid, but yes, I'm talking about, oh, like I've been able to do all of this and now I have a job. For all you know, tomorrow I could be laid off for no fault of mine, right? It just comes from top down. Decisions are made. I know a lot of people who have been affected by layoffs and have had to fend for themselves. So it doesn't stop here. Like I need to still be in the job market always in the sense that, hey, tomorrow if I'm laid off, how does my network look like? Who can I reach out to fend for myself, right? And trying to understand that and not really taking it personally that, hey, if I'm laid off, it's not really all my fault has been like a really difficult thing to come to terms with. But I know someone that has been laid off thrice in like over a span of year and a half. But they survived. They like I was speaking to a friend, and it's a friend of friend that was laid off with 2 days left on their OPT expiring, and they were able to find a job for themselves within 72 hours. The hustle just does not stop. Just want to leave you with that thought.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. There were a bunch because layoffs happened, right? Economic situation, and what you guys went through in terms of the job scenario was not easy, right? It was a very, very difficult period. And I had a bunch who applied to master's programs, got in after 2 years of OPT, got laid off, and therefore approached us again to apply for an MBA. And by the time the interview call came, they got another job. Right. So you never know what's going to happen, but you don't dismiss hustle, right? It's the only way you're going to survive anywhere, pretty much. So thank you for that example. I think we'll have 5 more minutes, so maybe a question or two more. Yash, is there any question that you've identified that you want to take on? Anybody else? I'm going to go scrolling by the time you get to it.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question where what kind of roles did most of your classmates get after MEM? So there is a wide range of roles and titles and industries and companies that people have been able to get into, starting from the top. Like I know my classmates have gotten into Apple and Amazon. So right from there, and some of them have opted to work for smaller companies, mid-sized companies or startups. So I cannot comment on exactly these other roles you'll be able to get. So it's going to be always a wide range, which is actually a good thing for you. So all of those options are open. As to what kind of roles they land, it really depends on what kind of courses have you taken and what kind of background are you coming from. That sets you up for a certain role that you want. So an MEM is not like set in stone. You pick and choose courses, and of course at Johns Hopkins there is the technical track that you opt for, and those kind of courses is what you go for. So different roles. Like many of them are product managers, many of them are into business analysts, and one guy was into venture capital, and supply chain is there. So it's a lot of roles that my peers have been able to land. So yeah, like you can pretty much tailor to what you want to be doing in the future. Make sure that the curriculum of the university is something that helps you get there, and of course, the alumni have been able to get into roles that you are interested to get into. So yeah, so that would be my answer for that.
All right, great. And I'm going to take the liberty to pick the last question, and maybe Yash, you can give your answer to this, and then we can move on to the others. Is it worth taking an education loan to pursue an MEM in the US? I think straight away, simple question.
Of course, it is worth taking. Make sure that the reason why you're taking the loan is something that you're very clear with. So it should be very clear, like you want to be doing this with an MEM degree, and you should be ready to take the hustle in. Uh, Paying back the loan is not very difficult once you make sure that you are getting a really good internship. You can literally start paying off your loan in your internship if everything works out for you. So, of course, an MEM degree has so much of value to add, and it teaches you so much of skills and gives you new opportunities in a country like the US. So, a loan would be the least of your worries, making sure unless you are not hustling, if you're not networking, you're not doing the basic steps that you should be going through. So also make sure like how risk averse are you. So you should not be going to a university like Johns Hopkins, which is not at all an affordable university for anybody. So if you are that risk averse, so make sure that the curriculum and your goals and the kind of loan that you're taking is everything that you can make peace with. So yeah, that would be like a short answer from my side.
All right, thank you for that. And Maya, I think there's one last question. We have 3 minutes. Does Purdue offer any sort of scholarship or financial aid? Did you receive any? And I mean, I'll take the liberty to just add a little bit on that. Purdue, with its co-op and its low tuition fee, already gives you so much in terms of a financially compelling package. So if Purdue specifically doesn't give you a scholarship, I still think you should be okay. But does Purdue offer scholarships in your experience, Maya?
No, no, it doesn't. I think they're very clear about it on their FAQs also, if you go out there and see it. There's just no financial support. The reason being it's a professional master's, and all of these funding opportunities are reserved for thesis-based, research-oriented programs. And because, as you said very rightly, like a year-long co-op, great industry support that the program gives you, I think, in my opinion, probably they aren't able to justify rewarding scholarships to students like us, right? Like there are more that are in need of it with research, TA, GA, RA, those positions. So there's absolutely no scope,
Yeah.
just no scope.
And you have to be smarter in terms of analyzing your finances, guys. I know there's a couple of questions talking about $100,000 loan, and I'm like, why would you take a loan for $100,000, right? Like, don't take loans for your cost of living and everything together and bundle it and start getting it sanctioned. You're going to get butchered after that, right? You need to plan it a little better in terms of figuring out, okay, how much am I going to put in pocket for living? Maybe take your loan only for living, only for tuition, and then understand that most of the top MEM programs, and the panel will back me up on that, you get on-campus jobs, pretty much, right? TARA, working at the library, working at the cafeteria, whatever, pretty much all the good MEM programs, at least, you are able to cover your cost of living starting from the second semester. So don't sit down and make this calculation that I'm taking $100,000 loan. If you're taking $100,000 loan, you're not planning it properly, right? Just to give you, give that. No, this is not to your question, Trupti. I just had some others, DM me in the, question and do a ROI analysis. But yeah, overall, I think most programs within the OPT period, you should be good enough to, clear your loan in the worst case, absolute worst case, if not, save a little above and beyond that. And that takes us to 10:30. I know if we continue, guys, we'll be here for another hour and a half at least, because the questions will keep coming. But I don't want to keep you, any longer. Thank you so much for waking up on a Sunday morning and, doing this for our students for absolutely free. This is just out of the goodness of their hearts, guys, that they've, come on board and, given you this advice. So thank you so much for doing this, and I hope to stay in touch. Any final, bits of advice you'd like to give to our listeners before we log off from this webinar?
Yeah, I can drop one. I would say yes, it's very nerve-wracking to go through this entire process. Trust yourself, because if you cannot trust yourself, you cannot make the admissions committee believe in you. So you have to start there. Know that you are capable of joining that particular program that you want to apply to. Just always keep asking yourself, have you done everything in your power to get in? And the answer to that should be an absolute yes, right? Leave no stone unturned, and that should work. You should be where you want to be.
Thank you. Saumya, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think just one thing. It's just that don't do everything at one time. Take a decision step by step. Take a decision, relax, then take another decision. Don't just try to do everything at one time. Uh, be patient and relax. Enjoy the US life as well. It's just not apply for jobs, but enjoy the US life and your university as well. That's one of the most important things. And you're gonna be great. And yeah, pretty much that's it.
Weren't you the guys who had Ed
And
Sheeran perform?
Sorry?
Was it Ed Sheeran who performed at Duke just for the heck of it?
Yes.
Right. Nice. Okay. Ending on a lighter note. All right.
What was it? 100 years celebration or something?
Yes, 100 years. We were
that's
very
pretty cool.
fortunate to be 100th year student and got Ed Sheeran's life.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice, nice, nice. Yash, I know we didn't have Ed Sheeran at Johns Hopkins, but any other wonderful words to end this super useful webinar?
Yeah, I mean, the best advice I can give to anyone is starting out early does not hurt at all. So make sure that you are buying yourself the time to, really think about your decisions, do the hard work, not at a very crazy fast pace, but giving yourself the time to do the homework that you need to do before you apply, during your application, and even after you get the admit. So make sure that your timeline is something that you have set and you are sticking to it. Make sure that you're asking for advice. It's not a math problem that you need to decipher. You can talk to a lot of people. Don't be modest. Modesty is something that does not work in the US. You have to be the one speaking up, asking for help. People really are open to help more than you think that they are. So make sure you're reaching out, and you can reach out to me anytime. I'll be more than happy to help you out. And yeah, this country does reward your hard work. So if you're really diligent and you have integrity is there in your hard work, it will any kind of country, not only this, will reward you with its benefits. So yeah, all the best to all of you.
Thank you so much for the super kind words, and thank you so much to the panel. It was lovely having you on this Sunday evening, and I hope to be in touch with you throughout the year. Once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the Gradwine team, and of course, I'm sure from the 150 odd who are listening in throughout this hour and a half.
Thanks, Shrikar. Thanks to the Gradwine
Thank you
team.
so much,
Akila
Srikar.
as well. Thanks for
Thank you,
organizing.
everyone.
If you watched this video until this point, I'm sure you liked it. Why don't you subscribe?